Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the channel where we dive into the wild world of entitled people and their unbelievable stories. Hope you enjoy it, and without further ado, let's go. I'm a pet groomer in a luxury salon. I come in, set up, and prepare for the day. 10 a.m. rolls around and my first dog scheduled isn't here. 10 a.m. Give them a call, and straight to voicemail. We give clients 15 minutes before no showing them. This woman arrived at 10:14 in like 50 seconds. Not in a rush, just wandered in on the phone. Karen, here's dog name. Me? Okay, I'll check you in, whispers a bit late. Karen, we got busy and didn't brush him for a week, so there might be tangles. Me. Okay, I'll do my best. Karen, and don't brush his teeth. We're getting a dental cleaning in a few days. Me, thinking if she doesn't brush her teeth the week of a dentist appointment. Karen kept getting back on the phone. Here's a photo of what I like. Shows photo really fast. Me, all right, I'll get started. Karen, when will you be done exactly? Me, 3-ish hours. That's what was quoted to you. Takes dog, does haircut and everything. Text owner, we're done at 12:30 type. Dog proceeds to bark and whine for hours, and we can't get a hold of Karen. The kennel space is filled with him, so that's inconvenient. And his extreme anxiety is giving all the other dogs anxiety and giving me a headache. We finally reach a 4, we close at 5, and she says she's busy meeting with people all day and will hopefully leave soon, not saying what soon is. Mind you, this dog has had no water, no food, no potty breaks. I can't help its policy since I don't know or own this dog. Karen walks in at 4:30. She's pissed there was a price increase. Call the owner if you're mad, I just did your dog. Then proceeded to be mad that he hasn't potted all day and I couldn't take him out. We're at a busy street area and I have other dogs here. I am not risking that liability. This is not daycare. Still got a 20 tip though. My friend, just for context, is a bouncer at a very popular club in my local town, in England, as well as a personal trainer and trains in boxing as well. I am also a bouncer along with him, and that's how we became friends due to working together. The beginning. It's a Friday night, around 10 p.m. Local nightlife is booming, an extremely busy night. We've already had to stop 2 fights even though we'd only been open 2 hours and kicked out a few people. So there we are, just standing talking and looking menacing. A few hours more had passed. It's about midnight at this point, and we were making plans about having a cheat meal together, first one in 2 months, tomorrow and having a few drinks ourselves since we weren't working. We were checking IDs, turning people away, letting people in, and having a laugh when this small group of 4 people, 1 guy, 3 girls, all approached us, clearly had a few too many drinks, and were now trying to walk straight past us. We obviously stopped them and asked for ID. The girls have no problem showing us straight away, but the guy, oh boy. He was hammered as he kept trying to punch my friend's chest and arms. My friend kept telling him to stop or he'll have to turn him away, and if he continues to do it, he will then restrain him and radio for the police to come and take him away. We have a direct line to the police which we can use if any extremely violent fights break out and weapons get involved. After my friend tells this guy that, the guy says, oh, so it's going to be like that, is it, tough guy? Before slapping my friend across the face, then blowing him a kiss. I push the guy back, to which he gets in my face and says, don't you dare touch me again, in a squeaky voice before turning back to my friend to put his hand over his face and push his head back, saying, move aside, peasants, I'm trying to get through. And just as he tries to step past us, we both put our arms out, push him back again, and tell him, you're not allowed to enter, all of you must leave the premises. The guy gets offended and his girlfriends are trying to pull him away. He finally gives up and says, I didn't want to come here anyway, before lighting up a cigarette and rolling his eyes at us. An hour or so passes, nothing much has happened since, so I head off to go grab us a drink each, and this exchange happened during that time. My friend is just waiting at the door when his uncle approaches with a giant group of people, about 15, including the self-centered jerk and one of his girlfriends. Now, my friend's uncle thinks he's a big shot due to inheriting a sizable amount of money, my friend's at close to £1 million, and likes to throw it around and spend it like it's nothing. Now, as said before, the jerk guy and his friends were turned away earlier in the night by us, and due to that, we would have to turn the whole party away unless they left them and entered without them. This is where the fun began. My friend's uncle comes up to the door and says, "Hey, nephew, do me a favor and move out of the way for us all," to which my friend saw the jerk guy and his friend and told him, "I can't do that," before putting his arm in the way and says, because of him and her pointing them out. To which his uncle replies, "Koma, don't hate him just because he's a little drunk, and my friend says he slapped me and didn't give me his ID when he came here before. So no, I won't let him in." His uncle just looked at him and got close to his ear, whispering, "Let us in. And I'll even slip you a few things for the trouble he caused you earlier," before handing him 2 small baggies of cocaine and 450 notes. Now, before my friend became a PT, boxer, and bouncer, he was sadly a drug addict. He got clean from cocaine use 2 years before changing his life completely to be who he is today, and is still clean to this day for 8 years now. He allowed me to share this because he's proud of it. However, his uncle knew of his former life, hence why he tried giving him the baggies. That's when my friend took the money in the bags, pocketed the money, before handing back the baggies, then said, "No entry for any of you. Please, all of you leave." His uncle, clearly mad at not getting his own way, turned around and walked away, straight to the police officers who were patrolling around as they normally did, and immediately told them. That bouncer over there refused to let us in, took my money, and didn't give us any reason whatsoever. The cops approached my friend and asked him why he took money and refused to let them in, to which he said, "That man is my uncle. He's on the banned list here. He wasn't, and he tried slipping the money to me as a bribe." The officers asked him if it's true, and before his uncle could answer, I came back with our drinks and asked what the heck was going on. My friend took the drink, downed it in one before saying to me, "Oh, it's my uncle. Remember the one I told you about who inherited that money, who thinks he's king of the world? He just tried bribing me with cocaine and money to let him and everyone here inside with the cops right there in front of him." His uncle immediately ran at him through the cops, yelling, "You jerk," before getting punched right in the face by my friend and getting laid out flat on his back, to which the cops then arrested his uncle. They said they saw him swing first and detain the rest of the party, who started running away one by one after calling for backup. All of them got arrested on accomplice to illegal drug possession with intent to sell charges, and when they were searched, it was found they had over 100 small baggies of cocaine and marijuana within the group, which landed them all jail time. And that's how my friend got pro-revenge on his dirtbag uncle who tried using his former addiction against him. Sad part is, had the jerk guy at the beginning not been there, his uncle and the rest of the group would have been let in with no issues. The outcome: my friend's uncle got sentenced to 5 years in prison. His wife divorced him after finding out her husband was selling drugs, to which she got the brand new house they'd moved into, and all of the uncle's money and assets. She gave $700,000 to my friend, who is now invested into his own gym, and put a down payment on a house for himself as well. Oh, and the Chinese food the night after was absolutely delicious, and it was paid for by my friend's uncle and the money he slipped him. So with summer around the corner, my husband and I have been cleaning up our yard and setting things out on the side of the road. Next week is our town's big trash week, so everyone in our neighborhood has been setting stuff out. It isn't just our house that is unwanted clutter on the side of the road. Now, while my husband and I were outside, a person from around our place, but not our neighborhood, was walking their dog around the block. We kind of live in the woods, so our little neighborhood attracts a lot of people from around our place that can't take a walk anywhere else. Lack of safe spaces to walk that isn't directly in the forest. As she sees my husband and I, she starts a conversation with us about the renovations we recently did on our front yard. All is going well when she notices a small iron and wood bench we had set out for the city pickup. She asks us if we're giving it away, and I say yes, and that we were also going to put out a larger one that she could take if she wanted. Giddily, she grabs the small bench and puts it back in our driveway. She says she'll be back soon to come pick it up with her friend in the next 2 days. I'm already a little irked because trash from the side of the road is usually a first-come, first-served type of situation. I put it there because I don't want it in my yard. My husband and I figure it'll be fine anyways. The pickup isn't until next week. Well, this lady comes back with her friend the same evening to pick up the smaller bench and has my husband help her bring out our other bench into our driveway. Oh, it doesn't fit into her car. So she leaves it once again in our driveway. I'm inside while this is happening, so I don't really know what's going on. Next thing my husband knows, She goes to our front door neighbors and grabs 5 outdoor dining chairs and puts them in our yard. And she says she'll be back next week to pick them up. And off she goes. My husband is very conflict averse, so he didn't say anything and just went back to mowing the lawn. When I noticed, I got upset. I'm 37 weeks pregnant and very into nesting and getting stuff done. I worked all week to clean my yard, and this lady feels like she can just use our yard, without asking, to hoard her trash treasure. Nah. I grabbed all of the trash, including our bench, and put everything back by the road, and I put my neighbor's trash back where it was. I was just so shocked by how comfortable she was to start storing stuff in our driveways without even asking. We aren't even neighbors. Part of me hopes someone else comes and picks everything up. Enjoying the stories yet? If you do, please subscribe, like, and comment. I saw a story recently about a Karen demanding her kid pet a service dog and gets mad when the OP said no, and it reminded me of this. Background: my family friend is an old war vet. Won't go into detail as I've talked about her before. She has a service dog, a 6-year male pit bull, that had been abandoned as a newborn pup with his 3 siblings on her doorstep during a really bad storm. Family friend has trained him to obey the usual commands, sit, stay, etc., as well as alert for certain health issues she has. In a previous post, I said she has angina, which is a serious heart condition, as well as diabetes and PETS from being a soldier. She manages her conditions very well and uses her service dog when she's out and about. Certain situations like crowds kind of stress her out, and being stressed agitates her angina, which could be deadly. Her service dog alerts when she's having low blood sugar, a food allergy, nuts, or is stressed. Now on to the story. This is all secondhand, so I don't know full details, but it's given as best as recalled. Cast: Cade family friend, Butch service dog, Karenian titled woman, Bratwin titled woman's kid. So Kay was out getting groceries. This was 2019-ish, and had Butch with her. Kay was a little stressed as it was winter, and there was snow on the ground, and she didn't want to slip and fall and possibly break a bone. A store employee saw her getting out of her car and slipping a bit on the ice, and offered to help her to the store. She accepted, and he helped her inside. Once there, she started doing her shopping as usual, when all of a sudden a little girl, probably 5 or 6 years, comes running up her and starts hugging Butch. Kay, sweetie, please don't do that. He's working right now. Brats, I don't care, I want him. Kay, a bit taken aback by how rude this kid was, sweetie. He's a service dog. See his vest, points to the vest that is clearly marked. He's working. Don't just run up to random dogs, especially large ones, and start hugging them without the owner's permission. Bratty or AB, and walks away. Yes, 5 or 6-year-old kid called an older woman the B word. Kay shakes her head and continues shopping. A few aisles later, Kay likes to go aisle by aisle to make sure she's getting everything she needs, so she doesn't have to go back across the store for anything. Pretty smart idea, actually. When she hears the clearing of a throat and the high-pitched, banshee-like squawk of "excuse me," she turns around and there's Karen with the brat in town. She looks like a Queen Karen haircut, oversized winter coat that's open to reveal a too-tight Live Laugh Love t-shirt and too-tight yoga pants with winter boots. Yes, this idiot box was wearing yoga pants in winter. Karen, I saw you harassing my daughter with your brute. Kai, sorry, what? Karen, my angel, was hugging your monster of a cow and you snapped at her. I demand you apologize and give my daughter your mutt. How do you confuse a pit bull for a cow? Also, what? Even now, I still don't track her logic. Kai, absolutely not. My dog, she emphasized the word dog, is a service dog, and even if he wasn't, there is no way in heck, the other H word, I'd ever just give away one of my dogs. If anything, your child needs to apologize to me for calling me a B. Karen, that's a lie. My daughter would never say such a disgusting word. You need to give her your mutt or put it down. It's a killer.
Wow, look at the brain cell on this girl.
Kay, not on your life. Get the F away from her and leave me alone. Karen, then I'm calling the police. Your creature is a danger to everyone. Everyone knows ugly things like that are bred to kill. Kay, go for it, Karen. Call the manager too while you're at it, Dumba. She was getting really annoyed and agitated. Brat finally chimes in, pointing at Butch Mommy. I want that horse. Kay, starting to raise her voice.
No.
Karen, how dare you yell at my daughter? Goes to slap Kai. Kay was really ticked off at this point, started shouting, Kai, first you demand an apology, then you threaten me, while you still try to demand my service dog? What is wrong with you? The manager and an off-duty sheriff heard commotion and came over. Manager, is there a problem here? Karen eyes, this bee threatened us and her dog tried to bite my daughter. Kay, rolling her eye. She only has one. Sure, whatever you say, Karen. Karen, don't call me Karen. Manager, ma'am, if you're going to continue yelling, I'm going to have to ask you and your child to leave my store. Karen, we didn't do anything. Sheriff, he knows Kay and has helped her a few times, mainly at local rodeo shows. Kai, is this woman bothering you? Kay, agitated and starting to have an angina attack, merely nods. Sheriff has the manager get her a chair so she can sit down and take her nitroglycerin, a medication used to treat angina, while he, the sheriff, calls in backup. A local police and a sheriff cars pull up and arrest Karen, who actually managed to slap Kay before the sheriff and manager came over. Her daughter had to ride in the other cop car to the station, where I'm assuming her dad got her. Not sure as I don't know what happened to them after Karen was arrested. Butch put his front paws on her shoulders and put his body against his reaction he was trained to do when she's stressed or panicked. Kay still needed to go to the hospital just to make sure she was okay, but after that, she never saw Karen and her crotch goblin again. 29 female, have an older stepbrother, Chris, 42 male, who's been a nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Let me give a bit of background. Our parents married when I was 4 and he was 17. Both our parents were widowed. After their wedding, we moved to the U.S. since my mom had American citizenship through marriage. I was born in the U.S. too, but after my dad died when I was 1, my mom and I moved back to Colombia. Stepdad got his residency through marriage and my stepbrother because he was a minor. My stepbrother wasn't a big fan of me. My only memories of him were just constant bullying. He would be left in charge of me since he was studying locally and lived with my parents, but mostly his babysitting really meant things like locking me in the guest bathroom or the shed outside. He would steal my lunchbox whenever he was the one who dropped me off at school. He even began to harm my pets. I have an old cat that has been with me for almost 22 years. He tried more than once to run her over with his car. My parents never believed any of it. He's the classic golden child. My mom absolutely wanted a son instead of a daughter, so my stepbrother took priority over me. The bullying just kept getting worse and creepier. He had this long key for the bathroom. The door was designed in case it got locked by accident. One could open them by inserting a long stick or key through a small hole on the outside. He would use it to walk in on me showering. My underwear would disappear sometimes, and I know for a fact it was him. He also started taking pictures of me sleeping. One night I woke up to him taking care of himself next to me while I slept. I yelled, obviously. My parents came over, but wasn't in trouble. I was for tempting him. I was 14 when this happened. He was 27. No one helped me, and he got bolder until he did something I'm still in therapy for when I was 16. It got to a point where I called my biological half-older brother, Sam, 48, male and son of my biological father's first wife, to see if I could live with him and his wife, Sandy, during my last 2 years of high school. When Sam found out what was going on, he confronted my mom. My mom didn't care and just told him to take me so long he never asked her for money. Done and done. My brother and his wife became my legal guardians and took me in with my cat and the old family dog since I didn't trust leaving any living creature with Chris around. My parents never checked on me. My extended family from my father's side knew what happened, and they immediately got together to ensure I could finish school well and go to college. I don't know my maternal family at all. Thanks to my paternal family, including Sam's mother and her family, I got my bachelor's and master's, no student debt, and work as a nurse practitioner. I still live with Sam, his wife, and their 2 kids, and I pay a small rent. Neither Sam nor his wife expected me to pay anything, but that's the least I can do for the two people who've taken care of me for 13 years. For anyone wondering why I didn't move, it's incredibly expensive where I live, and Sam insisted I stay with them until I save enough to buy my own home. Things seemed okay until my mom messaged me recently. She had not messaged me since I was 18 when she told me she no longer had any responsibility to me. In this message, she sounded overly friendly, telling me how she missed me and asking how I was doing. I was a bit creeped out but decided to be nice, telling her about what I had done since leaving her care. She seemed very interested since apparently she knew I was a nurse, but not what kind I was. She began asking me about my salary. I didn't tell her anything about it, but that it was enough to pay the bills. My mom then began texting about Chris and how he was barely making any money due to his student debt. Apparently, Chris never finished a degree, jumping from career to career. He is now working in my stepdad's used cars business as a salesman, but most of his pay went to pay the substantial student debt he got over the year. I told my mom how sorry I was that Chris was having a hard time and wished him luck. That's when my mom finally got to what she wanted. She texted me I needed to pay his student debt so he could finally begin to make the money he deserves like the man of the family. I just turned off my phone. When I got home, Sam was surprised since I was usually the last to arrive. Sandy wasn't home yet. I told Sam what happened and showed him my mom's text messages. I don't think I've seen Sam this angry ever. He told me to block my mom, stepdad, and Chris if I had not done so yet. After talking with Sam and Sandy, I called my boss to ask the next day and the one after off. This gave me a 4-day weekend, including the days I'm normally off shift. My boss was more than okay with this and told me to just take it easy and let her know if she could help. This backfired because the next day my mom and Chris decided to come to Sam's house to speak to me. I was alone since Sam and Sandy were at work and the kids were at school. I immediately called Sam and told him what was going on. He told me not to open the door and that he was on his way. My mom spent the whole time screaming that I owed them for raising me and that my sweet brother deserved the money. Chris was going around trying to find a window or door unlocked. There wasn't any since the windows have safety bars and the only other door is in the closed garage and one in the yard. The yard one was locked, and just in case I locked the one in the garage. I won't post what he called me when he saw me from one of the windows, but basically he pretty much told me they should have thrown me away when I was a baby since I grew to be a witch. He pounded in one of the windows so hard he actually cracked the glass. Eventually he gave up and went back to the front door, clearly trying to kick it down. I didn't have anything to worry about. The door was a security door, but I was still very scared. Between yelling, threatening, pleading, and insults, I finally heard Sam screaming to them to get lost. I only saw things from the window. Sam pretty much dragged them both off the porch. They got to a point I couldn't hear, but I saw my mom and Chris pale and look scared before they pretty much ran to their car and drove off way past the legal speed limit. Sam came in a bit after and immediately went full overprotective brother mode, asking me if I was okay. He kept saying, sorry, and hugging me. Sandy arrived almost immediately after, and she looked like she was about to commit a felony. Apparently, Sam threatened him with filing charges for what he did to me when I was 16. My brother's ace. My stepdad was willing to testify against his own son. That seemed enough to get Chris off our backs, but not my mom. Since then, it's been 3 days, and my mom has sent texts called non-stop with various numbers and rallied a group of people who are supposedly my maternal family to harass me for money. She claims that money should legally be hers since she's my mother, that it's my late father's missed child support. Sam is helping me find a lawyer to get a restraining order on my mom, and I plan to take my stepdad's offer to testify by pressing charges against Christ. I can't say I can forgive him for not stopping his son, but I appreciate he's at least trying. I don't know the details, but Chris did something to a relative of his dad, and since then they had a really bad fallout. I took my boss offer and will be on vacation for a few more days. But here it is. My vacation days are getting eaten up, and my therapist might need a therapist after. Thankfully, my dark sense of humor and supportive paternal family are keeping me somewhat sane. This is something that has happened to me from about 4 years ago. A relative and I are both self-published authors in our community. Prior to these events, in middle school I had began a story with it being well into 600 pages at the time. The computer I used back then was really old, a Windows desktop and tower that needed the 3.5 hard disks to save things to. It had been my aunt's who used it for her college classes. It ended up crashing, and I ended up losing everything I'd been writing. Tossing the computer away, I subsequently lost interest in writing after that. I around 12, 14 at the time, and buried the idea in my mental files for years until just before these events take place. In comes relative we had got along well and were really close as kids. Though we had our petty childish fights, she was always trying to boss the rest of us around. If she didn't get her way, then she would whine and cry, twist what we said around to play victim to the scuffs and arguments she started. Growing up together, she and I are the two eldest of 7 grandchildren. We later found out that her birth father, who passed away when I was 6, had had an affair with a woman he originally intended to marry while being with relatives' mother, and she had got pregnant with relatives' half-sibling we never got to meet. She, relative, was the outgoing type of person, and I, being the eldest of the 7 kids, have somewhat been the shy, wallflower kind of person, the type that are easily forgotten and overlooked. I was gullible, hanging on to my relatives' every word. We shared similar hobbies, gaming, collecting trading cards, etc. She and I also loved to draw, and I at the time had started keeping a portfolio of my drawings, began taking art classes and writing poetry in my English courses in high school. Sorry for all my typos and bad punctuation here, by the way. She approached me at some point about drawing up some characters for a novel series she had wanted to do. Naturally, I was curious about it, seeing as we had often LARPed and acted out several of our book fantasies playing in the yard outside before as kids. She explained to me that she would pay me for the services, and at the time I had not been taking digital commissions. Back then I only had done freehand sketches for about 15-20. This didn't sit well with her when I brought up my payment prices, and she dropped the subject. This happened on multiple occasions, and I ended up dismissing the whole thing after some time. I figured out after the multiple encounters with her that she never intended to pay me and instead wanted my drawings and character art for free because we were family. This was a no, and I knew that just because we're family means nothing. I've since adopted something her birth father used to say: family discount, you get charged double. A few months pass by and she begins bragging to me that she's found and hired a book editor online and currently in the process of self-publishing her own books. I tell her that it's pretty cool, and this moment sparks new inspiration in me to pick up my old writings from middle school. After this encounter, I spend the next few days poring over my online profiles to find some of the chapters of my original works, having forgotten about posting them to see what others had thought. Finding them and now having an up-to-date computer system, I saved what I could find on my laptop. Rewriting the first several chapters to fit my current mindset from my teenage way of thinking back then, I end up with well over 130 pages of what ends up being the starting of my first book in a planned series. Over the year, I talk with my relative less and less as she put out more novellas. The news of me writing my own books doesn't set well with her. At this point, her attitude starts to change, and instead of being supportive, she decides to talk down to me as if she's somehow superior because she had published a few books. I let it slide for the time being and bring up that I had worked at a cover for my book as well. She asks to see it and scoffs in my face and loudly rolls her eyes while she's shopping at my workplace, of which I won't post for ramifications. She attempts to antagonize me further by stating that she used a cover site for her books, one that let you use free stock photos, most of which were poor quality, and others of better styles were placed behind a paywall. I knew of the site and told her as much. Relative goes as far as to say that if I wanted a real book cover, I should use the site. I tell her right out that my cover was real, and I had done it myself. I'm on the clock and realize that we had been standing around talking for too long by then, and we go our separate ways. I don't hear back from her for several more months until she starts handing our family copies of her latest book, which was an amalgamation of short stories. To my expectation, only one story I ended up liking in the small 100-page, if you included the wasted title pages, booklet. She gives my sister, mother, aunts, and myself all a copy and asks us when we had the time to go online and leave a review of what we really thought of the book. About a month or so passes, and being busy with work, I set the book aside as I had honestly never cared much for my relative's writing style. In the past, 95% of everything she had written was deliberately drawn out, or was obviously taken from something we had collectively watched or played in a movie or game we had. Turns out that this situation was no different, and in my review, I stated as much, asking that she be careful that a lot of the content was easily identifiable from certain big gaming corporations that make a huge chain of fantasy games. I was not alone in seeing this, as other people commented on this note, having read her current books at this time. Seeing my post, she wasn't having any of it. Immediately, she started spewing that she would sue me for libel, threaten me with a lawyer for posting the review that she had asked for. I held nothing back as I called her out for her inflated ego. Over the next few days, I waited to be served with a court date, but nothing came of it, and thought it had been over. I go about finishing up my own book, and on Christmas I gift my aunt a copy, free as a gift. Found out later that this same relative had charged our aunt for 2 copies that she had not received yet. My book was literally 3 times the size of relative's book for the same price. Seeing my book, my relative gets up with her family and storms out of the party hosted by said aunt. After this, my relative starts avoiding me. At my work, online, in public, I'm completely fine with this until someone who knows my relative comes up to me at my job and shows me a website. Turns out that it was said relative's website promoting her online content. Lo and behold, across the top of the webpage in a small black banner was my name and demanding I stay away from her. This webpage was completely open to the public, and anyone could search the contents would see this. I'm mad at this point, and then my phone dings with messages. Looking at it, I see that a person I don't know has forwarded me a series of screenshots of a long conversation between themselves and my relative. It's nearing my break for lunch, so I decide to wait and read them then. Going through each exchange between the two, I realize that my relative is talking about me and what had transpired on another platform for not loving her book and not giving her a rave review that she feels she's entitled to. My relative calls me a stalker to this person who I shall not name, and outright admits to giving out my personal information online in this same string of messages. The last post from this person to my relative told her that what she was doing was wrong, giving out people's personal information, and that calling someone a stalker for simply using the Yahoo email provider and not liking something they did was utterly childish. The commenter went on to say that they would be screen shooting the exchange and leaving a complaint with the site moderators. Since this has happened, I found a complaint forum and posted this to hopefully stop my relatives, Karen, like entitled antics. And I'm happy to say that as of this post, my relative site has been terminated and left to expire. Multiple people have came forward having been done the same way as myself by my relative for seemingly the same situation. I'm also happy to say that she no longer shops at my current workplace. At least, that I'm aware of. The best part of all this is that all of the characters my relative asked me to draw her for free are setting in my book series, protected by copyright law. I still have their original concept art in my portfolio, so she can no longer use them in any way. Update. Adding to this post, as things have come about with further developments regarding relative, following the above events with regards to relative calling me a stalker online to hundreds of people on her social medias and now deleted website that had been created using Squarespace, I stopped going to any and all social gatherings where I knew she may turn up. These included family get-togethers, holiday outings, birthdays, Thanksgiving, Christmas parties, etc. If we were asked to come over to an event with aunts or other family, before I had even moved from my desk or bed, sometimes I would ask if this particular relative would be there. If they said yes, then I refused to go or would say I didn't feel good. If it was to go out to eat, I would ask that they bring me something back instead of going simply to not be around relative who called me a stalker. I went so far in avoiding my relative that I blocked all social media accounts I knew she had at the time, her brother's accounts, her sister's accounts, her father, mother, and any extended family in the off chance that they might have even the slightest of chances to contact me. This even included me blocked people on various social platforms that had the same name as my relative in the off chance that they might be here. She had multiple accounts and still does. 2 years ago, another of my aunts passed away from COVID in Montana. We had to ship her remains back to Virginia for funeral. This would be the first time this relative and I would be in the same room in over 5 years since her comments of me stalking her. Instead of going to the wake in the graveyard with the rest of the family, I sat in the vehicle to again avoid having any contact with relatives. We leave early and don't hear anything for a long while. That is until end of Feb 2024 this year, on who I gave my first book to contacts me at work saying that this very relative lost everything in a house fire, expecting me to give her sympathy. Instead, I find myself laughing my ass off that relative finally got her karma after 7 years. Mind you, in the time between aunt's funeral and relative's house fire, family and I have moved 3 or more regions away, and it's now over an hour's drive to even be in the same town as this relative. After our exchange, aunt's defending relative blah blah blah, and I post online to Facebook about how karma had finally been dished out. I go about my day feeling the best I'd felt in a long time. Evening comes around, I get off work. Go home and play video games online until bed around 10:30. I lay down and my phone notifications start going off 4, 5, 6, 7 notifications from nearly 5 hours prior to me laying down to sleep. We have bad reception, so notifications didn't come through when they had originally been sent. I go to check them, and they're from the relative I spent the last 7 years avoiding everything to do with it. I laugh more and go to try and reply back, but she's already blocked me. She had used an account I was not aware of or missed to contact me after 7 years saying that I stalked her. To leave 7 comments about how I was a shitty person for not fondling over how she was in a bad place and helping her out. For her to have even seen my post to start with, relative would have had to deliberately type my name into the search bar, find my account in a drop-down list, click my profile, and scroll down. She deliberately commented on my post instead of leaving it alone. Makes me wonder how many times she'd clicked my name or how long throughout the last 7 years she'd been watching my account. Which one of us is the stalker now? Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more captivating stories. Share your own experiences, opinions in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay tuned for more epic tales.